Hello. I want to take a few minutes to show you how to create a strategy based on the ATR trend. One of our users requested kind of showing how to set something like this up, and so I thought I'd just make a video and give you an idea. So the first thing you'd have to do is one of two things. Either if you want to create a chart straight from scratch, or if you want to just backtest the strategy first. So I'm actually going to show it to you in both ways. That way you'll get an idea how to do either or. So first, we'll just create our chart in order for that to be available once we're ready to go. And that's done right here by pressing on New Chart. And then we go over here and we choose the latest one. So let's see. Actually, we're going to do micros. So if we do micros, we go over here to Micro NQ. And March 26 is the latest one, so we'll choose that. And then we'll go with a 5-minute chart. So we just type 5 minutes there and press OK. And so what that does is actually just brings up a chart for us that we can use. And we'll just leave that chart right over here for now till we're ready for it. Let me just resize it a little bit. There we go. And for this, we're going to expand that just a little bit so we can work on it easier. Expand that. Okay. This is one of our other strategies, but let's press here to plus. And so this opens up a fresh analyzer, or if you want, you can actually just go click New Strategy Analyzer right here, and that'll do the exact same thing. So we're in a brand new Strategy Analyzer. We can close out the other one, it doesn't matter. Brand new Strategy Analyzer, and we choose our Strategy Builder Pro. So now that we're in here, we can choose a lot of different settings. We can either build it out here or on our chart. And I always recommend that whenever you start something fresh, start something new, or want to test something, always start with the strategy analyzer. That way you can create the strategy, you can backtest it, and from there you can verify that you actually want to run this strategy. And from there you can also create a template which you can easily load into your chart. So I'm going to do it this way first, that way I can show you the template method. And I think it's a little easier that way because one, you've already verified that it works, that it's doing what you want, and two, it's really easy to load up into your strategy or into your chart once you're ready to go. So here we go. Let's start with the first thing, which would be the strategy entry type right here. So under Strategy Builder Pro Parameters, we go to strategy entry type, and we want to do the ATR trend trading. Okay, now we have a few different settings here, but we're not going to play with these for now. These are just different ways that you can adjust the ATR trend and how it will take trades at what point and things like that. For example, this one, it'll wait for the first trend flip and it won't take anything in between the last trend flip and the next one. So for example, if you want to reset it like you can here, but we're avoiding any of these settings. We're leaving them as is on default, and we're moving on to the next thing. From there, we want to verify, we go all the way down to the bottom, and we want to verify our instrument here. Again, we're doing micros and MNQ. So we want to choose that. And like our chart, or for example, the strategy, we want to run that on 5 minutes. So we want to make sure 5 minutes is selected here under value. Okay. And so now we know that we've got the ATR trend entry type. That's our strategy. And we know that we are using the correct instrument and in the correct chart type. So 5 minute MNQ. So from there, we want to go and adjust a few things now to actually get the strategy working properly. Let's see. So the first thing we want to do is adjust our initial profit target and stop loss. Now, let's say this is a really fast scalping strategy, right? And we want to do really fast scalps. And so we want to get in, we want to take a very small target profit, and we want to get out. That way we can pull in lots of profit. So for example, we go to initial profit target here, and let's say we want to do 6 ticks. It's very small and it's really fast. And let's say we want to do our stop loss 250 ticks. That way there's a good chance that it'll get to target, right? Because it's so small, the target. So we're just messing around. We're just showing you a variation of this ATR trend strategy and how you can manipulate different settings in order to get a quick scalp. So we've got that in. Next, we want to look at a few other options here. One, we want to make sure our time zone is correct. So we want to go over here to Sessions Time Parameters and just check a few things to make sure that we are trading it properly. let's say we want to start at New York Open, and let's say we live in California. And so New York Open in California is at 6:30 a.m. Okay, and let's say we want to let it go through the entire day. So we do, let's say, basically till nearly close, which is 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. But if we're in California, we're at 1:30. So 1:30 p.m. Now you can manipulate these for wherever you are or for however long you want to trade. If you want to trade a couple hours or whatever it might be. So now that we know our start time and our end time, these are safe now. We're good to go. Now, if you live in a place where daylight savings time has to be adjusted and you're not in America, you can choose one of the other countries or regions. You can also set something manually, or if you're somewhere where it doesn't change, you can ignore DST changes, and that keeps it always the same. So whenever daylight savings time happens, you don't have any worries. The next thing is we're only doing one session, so we want to make sure that's okay. Show time in. This is just saying we're displaying this information in the time zone that NinjaTrader 8 is set up as. And one quick note is that your NinjaTrader 8 time zone and your computer time zone absolutely needs to be on the same exact time zone to make sure that everything plays out right. Otherwise, you may have weird hours and stuff. Next thing, if you want to have it flatten at a specific time, say like at 1:30 p.m., you want it to flatten no matter what, and you don't want any trades to go past that, you can actually change this to 01:30 p.m. Actually make it 1:31 p.m. You always want to be 1 minute after, so that way it'll actually take effect, because if you're trading at the same time it should be flattening, you'll end up with a trade that won't flatten. You want to be 1 minute past, and then you want to choose flatten trades at flatten time if you wanted to actually stop any trade that's existing at that moment. So it's up to you. If you don't want that, you just disable it. If you want it, you can enable it. We'll keep that enabled, but absolutely up to you. So after that, if you want to skip the first signal, you can choose that. If you want to stop after a certain amount of trades or a certain amount of losses or a certain amount of wins, you can do that. And since this isn't an opening range strategy, you don't have to do anything here. You just ignore that. And then flatten all open trades at this time. This will always take effect. So if you have this disabled at 4:59 p.m. or whatever time you choose, it will effectively disable or flatten all trades. So if you're actually in California, for example, you'd probably want this to be 1:59 p.m., not 4:59, since 1:59 is when the markets close for the day. Yeah. And then if you want to choose trading days, you don't want to trade on a certain day or whatever it might be, you can do that there. Okay, so now we've got our time parameters set up, and so they're good to go. We know that, one, we're on the right strategy. We've got our target profit for scalping in, a nice big stop loss, and we've got our time properly set up. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is maybe do a break even. A break even allows us to, when the price gets to a certain point, it breaks even. Now let's say if you're only trading one position, so one contract, it probably doesn't matter. But say, let's just go for example, 100 position size, right? So we've got 100 contracts. We're scalping a lot of contracts here, right? And so if you want to do that, then you might want to break even when it hits that target. And the reason for that is because it may not fill on the first hit. And so you might get up there. You might, for example, fill 25 contracts, but the rest don't fill because there aren't enough people selling. And so at that moment, it might actually drop back down. And so what you want to do in this example is set a break even so that no matter what, if it gets to that point, you sell a few contracts and then it breaks even. And so you're protected from it going south, right? And so what you want to do, let's see, break even is over here in advanced trade management settings and break even parameters. Now, because we have a very small target profit of 6, we want to do the break even trigger here at 6 as well. Okay, so we got the break even trigger at 6. And then we might want an offset. And basically that means how far away from break even do we want this? So let's say 2 ticks. So what happens in this situation is, say we get to 6 ticks in profit, right? And so the price hits 6 and we fill 25 positions of our 100 positions. And at that point, what this break-even parameter will do is actually say, okay, we've hit our 6 ticks into profit, and so we want to move our stop loss to break even plus 2 ticks. And so at this point, if the price turns back on us for whatever reason and it doesn't fill all 100 positions, you'll actually come hit that break-even offset and you'll get stopped out, but you'll be stopped out at 2 ticks in profit, which is basically break-even. And because commissions and fees and all that, you just want to protect yourself, right? So if you get a couple contracts in, but you don't get them all, at least it'll break even. And so that's how this works with a larger position size. Like I said, if you had just one over here, for example, it wouldn't matter as much because once you hit it, you're basically out of the position, and that's that. But if you had a lot of them, and that's why we're doing that for this example, is to show you that the way you trade and the way the settings are set up matter a lot. And so we put that in there. The next thing you want to do is, let me see here. Okay, so the next setting we want to change, and this is really important. So over here in built-in indicator parameters, we want to go down to ATR trend indicator. Okay, and we can do this first one right here, view ATR trend. This lets us actually see the ATR trend playing out on the screen with lines above and below the candles, and so we know where they shift. And for example, say our strategy requires a length of 10 and a multiplier of 2. So you would actually just change that right there. And then our actual strategy, right here, strategy entry type, will use these settings because in the background there, it's built to just follow the indicator, the built-in indicator, and just trade off of that. And so you're telling it, use this strategy entry type, and it's saying, okay, we're just following the ATR trend of the indicator that's built into the system. And so if you change your length and multiplier, it's going to automatically adjust this entry type. And if you have a different source here, for example, say it's close, and the average type may not be Wilders, it might be EMA or SMA or one of the other ones, you can actually just change that right there. And so now you'll get an entire system that you can actually customize at every level that you need to build something out that works for you specifically. And we'll leave that there as is, and we'll go on to the next thing. So the next thing is actually something I've been working on, and it has not been released yet, but I'm going to show you exactly how it works because in the next few days it's going to be released, and you'll probably be able to use it by the time you see this video. Real quick here, and that is, here it is, trailing stop loss. So this is a cool feature we've been working on, and I just wanted to show you guys how it works. Basically, it lets you trail your stop loss against a moving profit. So once we go to trailing stop loss, we want to first enable it. So trailing trigger mode. Right now it's disabled, and the only option we have right now is ticks and profit, but in the future we will probably add different ways of trailing and how it checks for that, and different zones that it can possibly hit and move you at different times and things like that. But for now, this first release, we're just doing ticks and profit. So basically, when the price is moving in favor of where you want to go, it will just move that stop loss with it so that you can consistently get a better stop if it does end up reversing on you. For example, because we're doing a very small target and everything is really tight, but we want to scalp, right? So we want to get the best value for our money. What we want to do here, so we don't have very many options here because it's our first release, but you've got the initial average entry price and then the average evolving price. For example, if you have DCAs and it ends up getting you a different average price and you want to use that instead of where you initially entered at, you can do that. But if you want to use just the initial average entry price, then you enable it on this. And so from there, basically what it says is once the target or the ticks and profit is hit, which is right here, arm after X ticks and profit, then start trailing. So let's say we want to do, as soon as we get 2 ticks and profit, we want to start trailing to make sure that we're consistently sitting at a point where we're no longer in danger of losing our money. And now it's asking the trailing distance. And so how far behind the highest point that the price has reached do we want to stay? And so since we're very tight here, let's put 2. And then the tick change for update is saying how many ticks does it need to change in order for an update to occur to the stop. In this situation, we want 1 tick because we're really close, right? But say you're trailing 100 ticks behind and you don't want it to update every single time it goes up 1 tick. Maybe you want it to update every time it goes up 5 ticks past the last high point. That way you're not like just spamming it and consistently just trying to update the price, which can cause other issues. But in this situation, because we're really close, we want to be real tight. And this is probably the best situation right here. So we're looking to go for ticks in profit, which is 2. And we want to stay behind by 2 ticks. And so once the stop is moved, it doesn't move backwards. So it only moves forward. It only moves in one direction. And so when that price reverses on you, it catches you and it stops you out. So you don't get in trouble. And so that's basically it. That's how that's going to be set up. Like I said, it hasn't been released yet, but very soon here. And so you've got a lot of options here. And like I said, we're going to have even more options in the future in the way it can trail and do things. But I just wanted to show you real quickly a cool feature that we've been working on and we'll be adding soon. Yeah. Other than that, I think we're good to go on this strategy. For example, let's test just the last month and see how it's done. We've got basically from the beginning of the year till right now. Today is the 8th, so we can do the 8th, and we'll see how it goes. Takes a couple minutes here, and once that's done, you'll see how it plays out. Okay, there it is. And so it's pretty simple. That's how it plays out. Again, these settings may not be ideal, but they're an example of how ATR trend works. And we're not trying to hide anything or try to show you a strategy that may not do its best, but that's how it's done. And if you go to trades here, you'll actually see how it worked out and what happened. So let's see here. Yeah, we got a lot of profitable trades, but every now and then you've got trades that end up not as good. And actually, if we look here, we'll see there's an issue here. Flatten trade at end. Let's see why that is. Get in at 1135, 131. So this is actually, okay, so we're looking here real quick, and I want to show you something here so you can understand how this works. We just did this. Now remember, we have a really big stop loss, 250 ticks. And January 26th, something happened here. Now I want you to see how this plays out in real life versus historical versus how it happened. So if we go here to chart and we actually move over here to January 26th, so we can actually see this trade in real life, how it historically played out. So the stop loss was never even actually hit because we never even got to 250 ticks, even down to this point. But it ended up closing at, let's see, what's that? R130 flatten time right here. So 131, boom, closed, we're done. What happened here, right? Like we see that we've got this tiny little wick here, which you could have ended up with different scenarios here. One, you enter into this trade, your internet's a little slow, whatever it might be, and you actually might even get a worse entry up here just at the tip of that and never even get to two ticks for it to trail. The other thing that could happen is even though you see this wick, the spread was not in your favor. And so even though you see a small wick, this actually ends up being exactly, I think, 3 ticks. So 3 ticks. So the price may have looked like it jumped up there, but the price was it never played out. So if you look here in our trigger, our trailing stop loss and the way it works, we use the bid ask price. So not the high low of what you're seeing as a wick, but the actual bid ask price and if it actually touched it. So in historical sense, you may not actually see it trigger that stop loss. So even though it hit 3 ticks right here, you're not actually seeing that. So if in real life this may have triggered, it may not have. Again, it's one of those things where realistically, did the price actually get up there? That's sometimes how you have to look at things, because if it didn't actually occur, or it didn't occur exactly when you entered, like this, even if this would have played out perfectly in live with no spread, no issue, possibly even slippage or other issues that could come up, even if like your internet was a little slow, or you came in like 1 second later where you're literally at the tip over here and there was no more move in the upwards direction. This could, realistically, this could happen in real life. Again, historical backtesting isn't 100% accurate. It tries to be as much as it can be, but that's why it's nice to do these tests and see what's going on. So now let's go back to our actual trades here and look at everything in a different way. So if we look at this, we see that there's a lot of wins and a lot of losses. So if we remove this specific one and just see where realistically, if it did hit, if our trigger would have triggered in real life, not the historical, what would have happened here? So let's go and calculate this out. 7,390 minus 5650. So we would have actually been positive $1,740 for the month. So if that would have triggered right here, as it should have, historically, it may not see it the same way. And so we may not be getting real results right there just because it's so tight. I'm sure if this would have gone up even 1 or 2 more ticks, it would have triggered even historically, but you just never know exactly how it plays out when it's such a small amount of space right there. And the other thing is that your average may not have even been right there, especially since you're trying to buy 100 contracts. Your average may have actually ended up being higher. And so there's a lot of things that play and come into effect when you're trading, and you have to look at it from every angle and decide, 1, is this strategy for you? 2, if this does happen in real life, how do I combat that issue? Because it could be account destroying. And so do you want to take these kind of trades? Do you want to look at it from a different angle? The other thing you can do is you go over here and back to ATR trend, and you can play around with these settings and see if something ends up better than others. Like we had, I think it was HL2 before. We can rerun this test and see under that situation, would it have played out exactly the same? And then the average trend and the trend type, for example, let's say instead of Wilders, we want a simple MAA and we want HL2. And so we can run it this way. And so let's actually run that and see if we get better results overall. So let's just click run. Okay, boom, right there. We got some new results here. Let's see what it does look like. We probably would have hit that same exact. Historically, it looks like that exact same one was hit. But look at this though. We have a lot less losses in this situation than we did before. That's really nice actually. And we actually end up, even with that major loss, you still end up with profit for the month. And look at that on the shorts, how great that was. $90 max drawdown with $4,000 in profit. That is just crazy. This is the kind of stuff that doing back tests really helps. Understanding the potential losses and potential gains for whatever settings you're using. And let's look one more time here. That's really, I want to see 26th here. Yeah, so we have the exact same loss one more time. You know what I want to try next? I want to try Heiken Ashi and see how that plays out. So if we go, before we do that, I want to go to Strategy Trader Pro parameters right here. And I want to plot the real closed dot. So I want to see, make it white. I want to see exactly where the previous candle closed at. And I want to see if that makes, just be able to see where that comes up. But right here at Strategy Ninja Heiken Ashi bars, especially if you're coming from Trading View, this right here allows you basically to get the exact same Heiken Ashi candles like you're seeing or you're used to in Trading View. If you use NinjaTrader's Heiken Ashi bars, which you can, they're right here, they're slightly different. Very similar, but there's just minute changes that occur. And we created our own. You can enable them right through there. But yeah, let's see what would have happened if we used Heiken Ashi bars and see if this kind of strategy would work completely different in that situation. Let's run that now. Okay. Wow, this looks a lot worse. Let's see in trades here what happened. Wow, look at this. We got that same trade that failed there, but then we got a second one that hit stop loss. Wow. What date was that? Let me look real quick. Trades here. 130. Let's just go back to January 30 here and see what exactly. Wow, right here. Okay, so look at that. So you can see right here that there was nothing else. Like you literally sold as low as possibly go. And so this is the kind of scenario where, playing with the settings and trying different things out can absolutely help you. being able to back test and see how strategies actually work can really get you where you want to go. I just removed the Heiken Ashi, went back to the regular stuff. See if we go back to ATR trend. So in here, if we go back in here, we can play with these settings, but I don't think anything will really change much regarding this loss right here. This loss seems to just be there on every single variation of the settings. Now we could potentially change the length or the multiplier, and that might do it. Maybe we go something a little bit smaller and see how that plays out. Let's go back to summary. And okay, and there we go. That just finished, and that is not looking great either. And let's see in trades what happened here. We got, wow, so we had a stop loss in January 19th. We had January 21st, another stop loss. But look at that. Oddly enough, January 26th, where they were happening before, where we had that one loss, no more. And now we've got other losses here. So right there, you can see that what you choose matters big time when it comes to the final results. HL2 Wilders. There's so many variations here that you can play with and see, but at the end of the day, the real question is your initial profit target good? Because there are those cases where you'll get entered right at the reversal point. And so even at, you would think 2 ticks, you'd be safe, but it's not always the case. And so you got to make sure your settings are proper. You got to make sure there's a lot of things that need to happen. And one thing I always say is never leave your computer. Never turn on a strategy and just let it run. There's so many things that can go wrong. One, you lose internet connection, for example. I mean, maybe you were in a trade when that happened. That's worst case scenario. Maybe the broker connection gets lost. Even though you have internet, your broker's lost. And so if that happens again, you're basically sitting there, no bar timer, nothing's happening, and you're in trouble. And that can hurt you too. Let's say go back to 10 and 2 and rerun it. But the biggest thing is doing back tests, verifying and checking, and always being by your computer, because you just never know how something's going to play out. And if you see something, automation works great. There's things that you can see that you step in for, and you're like, okay, it's not going for me, and I got to get out. And so that's the reason why you need to be by your computer. But let's run this one more time, and then I'll show you how to take a template of it and then apply it to a chart. Okay, I'm really liking this one. Okay, so we played around a little bit with the settings again, and look at that. That's amazing right there. Let's see what changed here and where we're at now. So on the 26th, I want to go to the 26th because I really want to see what happened this time. Did it just catch it? Okay, going there. It was the 26th, wasn't it? Whatever we did, and I don't even remember what we did, this one's working really great. So here's the settings. HL2 Wilders 10-2. That's really amazing right there. I don't know. Nothing else changed. Every other setting is exactly the same. The only thing we did differently is now, I think it was this one that we changed. I think we were on close initially. So we went to HL2 Wilders 10-2, and we've got now really amazing results. Check this out, guys. And that's the difference between just a little tweak and what you can end up with. So if we look here, we got a lot of trades. Again, boom, boom, all these great trades, making some good money here. Look at that. You got some that even make a lot more money. Yeah, that's really amazing. So I think price shot up really fast on some of these, and you ended up actually closing at a higher profit target. So instead of 6 ticks, it probably jumped straight to 12, and you ended up with some better profits on those. Whereas some of these other ones, you end up losing a little bit of money, because even at 2 ticks, if you're able to get out at 2 ticks, you still end up with a little bit of loss because of commissions. And I spoke about that before, where you always want to check your commissions, because something like this could look really amazing. Imagine if I turned off commissions and I reran this. Look how much of this is commission, $18,000. So you would actually see over here 25,000 plus for a month of trading this, but that doesn't include commission. And so as soon as you turn on commission, you get a realistic value of what you're going to accomplish on the strategy. But again, historical backtesting and live trading, especially when it comes to extremely small scalps like this, could be very different realistically. It tries to mimic what's going to happen or what would have happened, but it's never 100% accurate. So I never want you to go strictly by what it says and see, I'm going to expect that. Well, don't always expect because historical backtesting is only so accurate. It's not perfect. And there's so many little things like once me specifically, I was trading and I did a trade, automated trade, but my internet, it was slow and I actually got a really bad entry and I was actually off by just one tick and it reversed and went straight to stop loss. But then in backtesting, if I looked at the exact same trade, it showed a win. And why is that? Is because of your internet connection. Internet connection can be the difference between a win or loss. It's that simple. If you get in a little too far, a little too late, it can reverse on you and you're out. Same thing with trades like this. If you got bad internet, slow internet, whatever it might be, you got to be careful. Again, don't ever leave your computer just sitting around. But I really like this one, HL2 Wilders 10-2. You might want to change the position size to something smaller, but that's basically it, guys. That's how you go from having no clue, no strategy, to creating possibly a winning strategy. I don't know, you'd have to backtest a full year, maybe tweak a little more and see where you're going to get, but that's pretty cool results for 1 month. So now let me go and show you the template. So real easy, down here at the bottom, if you click template, all you have to do is press save here and say ATR trend 100 for 100 contracts. So we just save that there. That's simple. We go to our chart. First thing I always say is add our control panel to your chart. It's that simple. Just go to, in case I didn't show you, click the chart, you press indicators, go over here to our indicators, and then double click control panel. It pops up right here. You press apply and boom, it's right here. So from here, real easy, click the strategy there, boom. Okay, it says attach strategy. So you double click on the SNL Strategy Builder Pro. And that brings up this page, which is all the settings. What you want to do is change the account here to whatever you want your main account to be, especially if you're trading or copying. So that's all we have right here, demo. So we'll just leave it as demo. Label, you can just change that to ATR trend and just go template, load, and load it. And now all the settings have changed. Look at that, see, all the settings are changed. You just press apply and you go to OK. And in order to enable it, you go strategies here, press enable there, and you enable it. So it's that simple. Now got the strategy enabled. And the cool thing is about our control panel here, you'll see in a second once it loads up. Okay, wow. So it'll show you right here on the left. This is 5 days, I believe. Let me go to data series right here. So yeah, days to load, 5 days. So when we created this chart, we had 5 days of historical candles loaded. And so when you load, whatever strategy you load, it actually does a quick backtest, a historical backtest. And that's why you're seeing like these right here, because it went back, retested the chart, and then it showed you exactly what it would have done in the last 5 days. And that's pretty amazing right there. Yeah, it made $4,650 in 16 trades with 100% win rate. But, and this is really important, and that information isn't just we don't just pull that out of nowhere. If you right click on the chart and go to strategy performance right here, and you go to real time and historical, I want to show you two things. One, you're seeing right here exactly what my chart is showing you, my control panel. So it's telling you the profit, it's telling you the amount of trades, and it's telling you the win rate. But here's the big one. Commission is never shown when it comes to this. You take 16 times basically $200 because it's $190 in commission. So that's $3,200. So this would be more closer to the $1,400 in real P&L. And in this type of strategy, you got to be really careful. Again, most strategies, that P&L is very close to realistic because we're not dealing with 100 contracts with a lot of commission fees and all of that. But for example, that's why I want to show you this as an example and show you the different variations of our settings and filters and the features so that you can get an idea of how you can build a strategy from scratch. And I did the ATR trend one because a user was asking about ATR trend. I wanted to give them an example of how you go through it and set that up. And somehow we created a strategy that seems to perform really well. Hopefully you guys got something cool out of this. You learned a little bit about Strategy Ninja, about how to create ATR trend strategies, and how to manipulate different settings in order to get to where you're trying to get to. Yeah, I'm not trying to hide anything. As you saw, we went through 4 variations of back tests, and most of them were really bad, but you end up with a tweak here, a tweak there, and all of a sudden the strategy works out really well for you. And so that's how you want to move forward with these things and test things. And yeah. So anyway, that was pretty cool. One thing I probably didn't show you is the copier. You do get a copier once you're set up, and if you have multiple accounts, you can copy. Just select your master. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, you just select master. If you're trying to multiply, you can select those. Micro to mini to micro conversion here. And if you highlight this, it'll actually tell you which ones are supported right there. So you could do that. And then copy to, you select what accounts you want to copy the master to. And then you've got information on your balances and all that good stuff. So that's all there, ready to go. But yeah, basically I like to do it this way. I create everything in the analyzer. I do my back tests, verify that I actually like the strategy that I'm building. And then I go from there, create a template, and then I load that template directly into the chart. Now, that being said, if we go back to strategies here, this is where you loaded up the strategy and the template. We do have our own special template system, but we only put the strategies that we feel that they really reflect Strategy Ninja's mission and its ability to produce high quality trades. And so right now we have our Strategy Ninja dynamic orb strategy right here. And so when you select that, it'll actually clear all the other settings and set up our settings for it. And all you have to do is just, like we put right here, set to MNQ 5 minutes. So you just want to make sure that your chart is on an MNQ chart with 5 minutes. And you can literally click that and it'll load up our strategy specifically. And so as we build up new strategies that we feel are higher quality, our strategies that we run it ourselves because we believe in it, those are the kind of strategies that we'd be willing to put up there. Like the dynamic orb one, this is the same one I run every single morning. And it's that simple. In the future, look forward to getting more strategies in here, especially if we run more strategies that we're very confident in. That's where we'll be putting them. But for anything that is user created or anything like that, even though it's user created, I want to show you one other thing here. Since we worked on this all together and everybody saw exactly how it works, there's nothing to hide from you guys. I'll show you something really cool here. Once it's loaded, any user created strategy, and say somebody creates something and you're like, man, I did this really cool strategy, I want to give it to you. This is where it gets a little tricky because, okay, what did you change? What settings did you make? What did you do? What time? And time is the big one, because if you're in California, where I set this up as, I'm actually in Arizona, but if it was set up in California, for example, and you're trying to send to somebody in Germany, for example, or even in Florida or wherever, the time zone is different. And so you're going to end up with weird hours. If you tell them, hey, just put it at 7:30 in the morning, you'll be fine, or 6:30 in the morning, let's start the trading at 6:30. They put 6:30 where they're from, and they're getting like way odd results, way different. And something really cool we did is, if you actually click right here on strategy, ATR trend trading right here, right at the top, this window will pop up. And the cool thing about this window is it actually gives you the settings for this strategy that have been changed from their defaults. But it also includes a few other settings that, even if they weren't changed, they're still showing because they're very important. So for example, the first box, here's your data series. It tells you that for this strategy, we're on M&Q, we're price based on last, the type is minute, and it's on 5 minutes, right? And then the next very important settings that always show up, that's why they say verify. All these say verify, not just that they were changed, because even if they weren't changed, we want to make sure that, say you were playing with your analyzer and you forgot a setting or whatever it might be, that you go back and you verify these because they need to be correct. You'll actually see these in UTC time, like that, UTC. Why is that? Pretty simple, because if we go back into our analyzer right over here and we go to show time in and you change it to UTC time, all of a sudden you actually get to be able to input variables from somebody else. So if somebody sent you this screenshot, you can replicate it one for one through the UTC time. And so anything that they did will reflect in this timetable right here. So all of a sudden, there's 1:30 right here, PM, 1:30 PM, 8:30 PM, 8:30, 8:31 PM, 8:59 PM down here. Like this stuff will always show to you in UTC time, because if you need to replicate it, all you have to do is change from NinjaTrader 8 to UTC time. And now you see everything in UTC time. You update all of this information, and then you just go back to NinjaTrader 8 time zone, which is your local time zone. And all of a sudden, you're getting the numbers that would apply to you where you live and not where they live. And so you're getting the settings based on where they live, but you're inputting them based on a universal time. And so it's creating a situation where you see it locally once you do that change. And so I love it. It's a really nice way to share stuff with people without getting bogged down with the specifics. Okay, so it's a 6:30. If I change the time here, what time is it there? You don't have to worry about it. It's all done for you. So that's really nice. And then you just scroll down over here to look at the rest of it. These are all the changes that we made. And anybody that sees this, if you want to try to improve on this or you want to run it, that's up to you. But look at that. So all you have to do is come in here and it'll tell you we're on ATR trend. Look, we changed the initial position size, we changed the profit target, we changed the stop loss. So that's why it's showing here, because these are the changes to the strategy settings. So if you reset the builder and you get a fresh reset, everything is defaulted. All you have to do is come in and set all of these settings, and you've got the exact same setup as whoever sent it to you. Same with, look at this, trailing stop loss. It's showing you in there how to set every single one, break-even parameters, flatten time, the ATR trend, and all that good stuff. Yeah, I like it. So yeah, that's all you have to do in the future. Yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys learned a little bit about how it's done. I hope you got some information out of this, and that if you liked the video, like it, subscribe to us. We'll try to put out more things as users request things. If they want to learn how to do a specific feature or learn different things. But anyway, there it is. We created a strategy that may work. But it's up to you to go and do real back tests, do longer back tests, do ones that take full year of back testing. I'd also do some forward testing. I would do live testing on some accounts to verify that the triggers and the break-evens and all of that is happening how you expect it to happen. Because it's one thing that somebody tells you how it should act, and then another on how it acts, especially when it's copying and you've got that many contracts or whatever it might be. There's a lot of things that come into effect in real time that you're not always seeing in sim. So I always like to build a strategy, back test it, simulate it, do tests and simulation live, and then start slowly, for example, like one contract in live, and to verify that things are actually trading properly and acting properly even with my broker. Because a lot of times your broker, your internet, all that stuff matters, how you get data from them. And so it's one thing what simulation tells you, and it's another how that data comes in for you through your internet. I always start as far back as I can and just slowly take one step at a time, especially if I'm trying to build a strategy that I want to run for an extended period of time and use it as a strategy I actually want to make money with long term. And taking a month to slowly verify different aspects of that, how the copier works, how the features work, if there's any bugs, because this is a really big system. And although we do extensive testing, there's always these use cases, these edge cases that just are odd. Like when I was doing this, I saw a lot of strange stuff when it came to adding DCAs and break-evens, stop-loss triggers, and multiple take-profit zones and all this stuff. You add everything together, it works, but like you end up with really strange situations and scenarios that you probably don't expect, especially when you're scalping small. And that's the best way to test this stuff, is like tiniest scalps like I did here. It was like 6 ticks, because in one quick move of the market throws like thousands of executions a second that you have to follow through on. Okay, the break even happened, this move, the DCA occurred, this, like all this stuff that can occur really close. Like it can drop fast and then go drop to hit a DCA, move upwards to move your stop loss, and they'll break even, and all of a sudden at the exact same time you're already hitting your take profit while one thing is still completing. All of a sudden the trade closes and you're left with a random contract because of how fast everything moved. And so it's those kind of edge cases where we want to test that stuff, and we do extensive testing, like I said, but there's always these interesting situations that we may not be able to test for or see in advance or understand until they happen. And always test, always do like back testing, always do live testing and simulation, because if your plan is to do this long term, you want to make sure that your tools work for you and they work well. And so we try to produce the best software we can, but again, there are always edge cases and scenarios that we may not be able to pick up on until they happen. And when they do happen, we can pull logs from you guys and work on them and fix them. We don't try to hide anything. That's why every setting is basically configurable. All this stuff is something you can configure however you want to make it work for you specifically. And so that's the beauty of this system, is we're not trying to hold anything back. We're trying to give you as many settings and many features as you can deal with to tweak the smallest thing and become profitable. We literally went from thousands of dollars in loss to that's a beautiful month, and that's after commission. And just learn from this, learn how to do this thing, and you can become profitable with it. So anyway, hopefully you guys got some really great information. But if you have any more questions, put them in the comments, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll be seeing you next time. Yeah, if you have anything that you want to learn because you're interested in the software, just let us know, and we'll create videos like this, like we do for our users, like we do for interested parties, and we'll always do whatever it takes to gain another trader in our circle, because together we win better, and I think we'll all be able to be stronger together when we test and when we actually do back tests like this and work with one another to be able to win together. So anyway, sorry this video kind of went on and on, but if you got something out of it, I'm glad and I'm happy for that. And we'll see you next time. And yeah, have a good day of trading.